up, everyone, and welcome back to Season 2, Episode 1.1 of Otnpodcast. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Calvin. Welcome back. Part 2 of Episode 1 of Season 2.
Yes.
We are back in it. And so, as we said in the first episode, there is a little bit of a change of the format. So we did in the first part of the episode what we usually do in the front end of the show. So we did the While You Were Sleeping. We did Gossip Folks. We read a couple notes and answered some questions and gave you a little bit of a teaser of the theme. Yeah, the theme. Well, we told you what the theme was, but gave you a teaser of who and what project we'll be talking about this time because we said we were going to do albums, right?
Yes, that turned 25 this year.
Yes.
So these are albums that were released during the year 1994.
Yes.
And we just talked about just like how many like seminal projects came out in 1994. Yeah, I know a couple of them.
Yeah.
Some of them we may be talking about. Hit us.
Yeah.
Let us know if there's something that we definitely need to have on our list.
Absolutely. So what we said last episode, or the clue that we gave, was that this was going to be a difficult conversation. And I think that that's true.
Yeah.
And I think that we spent a good amount of time trying to figure out how to talk about this project, how to talk about, like, how to do this in a way that is genuine, but also in a way that is respectful.
Wow.
So that's what we're gonna do, and try as we may, we're gonna get through this together.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Do you want to?
You want me to kick it off?
I can't. I don't mind, but if it's too hard for you.
No. I can do this.
Yeah.
So the first project that we're gonna talk about on that note, Season 2, is the debut album of an artist that made a lasting impact on R&B and hip hop and generally music, but specifically because of how notable she became in the genre, R&B, hip hop, like, Princess Forever. So it's none other than the debut album of Aaliyah, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. So it's interesting because Cal and I were together like a couple of weeks ago, and it was right after Aaliyah's birthday.
Yeah.
And we were actually like trying to plan for Season 2, and it was like, oh, like Aaliyah would have been 40 this year. Like, whoa. So then like we kind of went back and started thinking like, oh, so that means her first album, it's 25.
Yeah.
And of course, with the whole dialogue about surviving R. Kelly, it was like this perfect storm.
Yeah.
As perfect as a storm can be in these circumstances. But everything just sort of aligned. It was like the universe was like, okay, if this is the thing you're going to do, then this is the album that you have to start with.
Yes.
Because I do think Aaliyah, and I don't recall, I know that Age Ain't Nothing But a Number came out before Monica's album, because I don't think Miss Thing came out until 95. But I think it might have came out before Brandy as well. I don't think Brandy came out till the fall. But so, if that being the case, you could arguably say that Aaliyah sets the pace kind of for this like new age of younger female R&B singers. They don't have the sophistication and refinement of a Whitney Houston or a Toni Braxton, but they're coming with this like unique sound, these very soulful voices, albeit not in normal soul R&B singer packaging.
Yeah. I mean, but in that same vein, right? So like around where was Mariah when this was going?
Exactly. She was her feet were firmly playing hip hop music.
Yeah. So yeah, and this is very much an Aaliyah episode. We were talking about Aaliyah. We were talking about her debut album, but we would be remiss, given the context that either or you will be informed of by the time the episode is over, if we did not discuss that full context and some of the people behind the music and some of the inspiration, you know, positive or otherwise,
right.
Behind the name of the album, you know, like the music, just everything, you know, like there's something very pervasive about this album.
Pervasive and another P word, predatory.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
We can start though with, I guess, just kind of talking about Aaliyah and talking about kind of a little bit of the background
absolutely
of the album. So yeah.
For sure. So I mean, as we know now, Aaliyah stepped on the music scene, you know, firmly in like '94, but she kind of got her first taste of stardom when she was around, I think they said 10. So that would have been in like the late '80s, early like '90s. She appeared on Star Search, and I've seen like that clip before. I'm pretty sure she sung "My Funny Valentine."
Yeah. Yes.
And so, you know, but definitely was within a musical family because her uncle Barry was married to Gladys Knight at the time, and so Aaliyah, one of her like young moments, like getting out there, was singing on stage with Gladys at a concert. Which, my God, 11 singing with Gladys Knight.
Right.
So, but from there, you know, her wanting to, I guess, eventually get out there and be an artist. She was eventually signed to her uncle's label, Black Realm, and that's when we start working on the debut album. And so at the time, if you're trying to launch an artist, I mean, even now, whenever you're launching an artist, it's always helpful to connect them with someone that is like firmly in the fit, like in the industry and in the genre.
Yeah.
So
influential.
Exactly. And so I'm pretty sure Barry Hankerson, Aaliyah's uncle, signed R. Kelly or like something like that.
Yeah.
I think he
there's
signed
a little
him.
there's a little bit of mention of that in the album that we'll get to. But
right. So Barry called upon that relationship to pretty much mold and launch Aaliyah as an artist in her own right. But as we'll get into, there's just a number of problematic outcomes from this pairing.
Yeah. Because, I mean, R. Kelly takes that and from that creates a situation in which Aaliyah is not even with very little experience in the game, with very little like clout of her own, placed in the situation that was, we now know, pretty harmful for her.
For sure.
So
that's like the most delicate way to put it, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to be.
No.
We're trying. So, but with this album, so Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, right? So this is her first album. She's 15, if you do the math, just if she turned 40, and then, 25 years, you do the subtraction, and then, so she's 15 years old, when she releases this album, and R. Kelly is how old?
Like
27, I want to say.
Yeah.
But he actually is behind the sound of the album. So not only does he influence, right, I guess, the content, unfortunately.
Right.
But the reason, I guess it's tricky because you say like he's the inspiration for what she's singing, but that's because he was writing the songs.
Exactly.
So it's like,
so that's the other thing that makes it difficult, right? And wanted to talk about Aaliyah and talk about this album that under different circumstances could be celebrated in its own right.
Right.
But then, as we'll get into, there's still just, even without the whole R. Kelly backstory, it's still like maybe a little like, maybe this is just a little bit too mature for you,
right?
Like to be singing about,
right?
But of course, the added context of this very over sexualized. Because this isn't I believe I Can Fly R. Kelly either.
Yeah, no, it's
This
not.
is bump and grind.
Yes.
Your body's calling R.
Yes.
Kelly, like in the prime of his like sexy,
Right.
sex symbol
Jesus.
thing.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. So I personally couldn't see myself handing my daughter over, like, or my niece over, to like be working with this person. But alas, we're here.
Right.
But so yeah, you can't really pull R. Kelly away from this album because he, with the exception of one song, and that was her cover of "At Your Best You're Love,"
Right.
done first by the Ozzy Brothers.
Yes.
Shout out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, every other of the 13 songs he wrote. So,
he wrote. He produced. This was essentially his album, really.
Yeah,
like through the voice of Aaliyah, this is essentially an R. Kelly album.
It's almost like if you imagine like a mad scientist, like in a lab, like working on something, and it's like, it's somebody else is the face of it, but they like just kind of engineered it all. You know what I mean?
Like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So like you see the monster,
Uh-huh.
but the person behind it is Frankenstein. That's interesting.
And they get a weird pleasure from
seeing
what they've put in motion.
Oh
So, with that, if you look at the styling, right? Because I think I said it on the show before, Aaliyah, sometimes what, like, the largest piece of her legacy is her mysteriousness. Like, her, you know what I mean? Aaliyah had like this swag, this coolness about her that was like, everybody wants to know more about her.
Yeah.
And so that didn't start at the end of her career. Like, that didn't start with her wearing the sunglasses.
Yeah.
On the One in a Million cover. Like, that began with this album.
Yeah.
To the point where like there are interviews where R. Kelly and Aaliyah are like speaking with people, and they're coy about how old she is, or they're talking about how much of like how close of friends they are. And then I remember seeing one interview where like, I think it was like on MTV, and like the interviewer kind of asked her like more than once like about her age.
Right.
And I think she said she's like 15, 16, 17, 18, something like that.
Right.
And so it was just kind of like you're already getting the stage set for this ambiguity around age, which then means blurred lines in terms of what's appropriate, what's not.
Who can sexualize her?
Exactly.
Should she be sexualized?
Right. Because it was a juxtaposition, because they put her in these really baggy clothing. Like, so she wasn't, revealed, maybe just a little midriff, but, it was like, wow, like, but you've kind of, you've loaded so much sex appeal in that.
And even the songs, even if they're not extra sexualized, they're adult.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
At a minimum.
It's right. It's like the language is very adult because it was written by an adult.
Exactly.
And so, yeah. And I think to your point, right? Because the question that I had was, after doing my research about this album and finding out that she was 15 and all this other stuff, and finding out how old R. Kelly was, it's just like, what was happening? Like, what was going on at that time where no one was like, this is... But it's because, they were being ambiguous about her age.
Yeah.
And no one was really telling the truth, so save, like, her family, her parents, her uncle maybe, who is profiting off of her at this point. It's just like, no one is there to say, nah, like, this ain't it.
Yeah.
And again, if you think about just like working with someone like R. Kelly, right? I mean, like, because that is the toss up. That is the dissonance. It's like this thing of like, either we know who this man is or we don't, but like his influence makes it so that it's very hard to say no for a young woman like Aaliyah who was trying to step on the scene.
Yeah.
Like, how do you say no to that?
Exactly.
You know?
Especially like if you're spending like all this, because you also, right, you think about just that age, right, and you have access to an influential adult whom you become attracted to,
Right.
but then there's like no one there to enforce the barrier that should be that that the adult should actually be able to exercise.
And there's no one, right? There's no one there to tell you it's not okay to have a crush on your teacher.
Exactly.
You know, to like use a metaphor.
But it's
you
like,
know?
but the teacher's also very much so coming on.
Right. No, you're right. No, that's what I'm saying.
So
like,
it's yeah, and there's just like no.
Like, and like the socialization, right? Because it's like, you can. Everyone has maybe like a teacher that they had a crush on,
yeah,
but it's like there's a difference between that and like following that through to its ultimate conclusion. You know, like there's a difference between finding someone attractive that is an adult as a teenager and like having that be reciprocated. That's what's not okay. You know?
Right.
So yeah.
So the interesting thing about it is these two were just so intertwined and connected in plain sight.
Yes.
And you know, part of it was, I think, maybe some people who just didn't know exactly what the age difference was, but then it also, once the marriage thing came out, it just kind of became like swept under the rug.
Yeah.
Like, it was normal. And so I put a pin there because I want to think about, well, how normal was this?
Right.
Particularly within the confines of music during that time frame. And you think about the fact that you do have these these young women that have these very soulful and rich voices, that voices beyond their years.
Yeah.
What we would imagine. So you are getting this level of love and relationship that you have to go back and think, like, what? Was this okay for Aaliyah to be singing? Was this okay for Brandy and Monica to be singing
with
at
like
this point?
Wanya and stuff? And when I'm thinking, like, what I just thought about, because that that Brandy Wanya comparison is very real. But then also, how old was RL when he was singing with Beyonce on their song on Writings on the Wall? Because she was
like 17. Yeah. I mean, or even if you want to go back to Destiny's Child singing No, No, No.
Yeah.
And they're like 16, 17.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I guess, right, yes. I mean, that is very adult. But I think I'm talking about like the grown man, teenage girl juxtaposition.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, for sure.
So, I don't know.
It's interesting. And it makes you think, right? Because this is like the one area wherein...
Also, hold on. Maybe to clarify, and I don't mean to cut you off. When Brandon said it was okay at this time, neither one of us is saying that. What we're saying is it was what was happening at that time.
Right. And
so,
and the general question of like, was this okay in the confines of that time? But definitely no, I don't think it is. But it's like, how does society see this?
Right. If it kept happening, and if people, like, if this was like you said, if this was the entryway into the industry, like kind of the way that, so like, I kind of see Normani doing it now, and it's not problematic because she's not doing it with like grown men or like men that would even be attracted to her, like Sam Smith. But like, so like her song with him, her song with Khalid, and with them both being teenagers, like a lot of what she's doing is like connecting herself with like men who are established in the game to get this certain level of like clout and appeal and all. At least as a solo career, because like she was a part of Fifth Harmony before. But that might just be a trope, you know, and that might just be like
the Lolita, like. Like that story. It's like
yes.
Like an archetype.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I don't know.
Right. I mean, I think though it's interesting because the question I was actually about to pose was,
Yeah.
usually it's more accepted in general society for boys to be like sexualized at a young age, but I wonder, like, in music it's kind of like the opposite, because I think Chris Brown wasn't singing "Take You Down" on the first album,
not the first one.
you know,
Yeah.
or like Bow Wow wasn't like singing rapping certain stuff, you know, when he was like younger, but he did have grown women dancing in his video. So
but here's the thing, and I don't think this is necessarily exclusive to the music industry. It's just this idea, right, that like men can be sexual, or it's okay for men to be sexual at an earlier age, but women are sexualized at an earlier age and they're shamed for it. You know, that's what it is. It's like men are allowed to be sexual and men are allowed to sexualize young girls, but like they can't be okay with it. Like that's not okay. Like it's not okay for you to embrace your sexuality at a young age.
That's okay.
You know, like it's okay for someone to sexualize you, but it's not okay for you to walk in that sexuality, and that is carried on well into the adult years of womanhood.
For sure.
You know, there are grown women who are shamed for being sexual in the way that men are not. And it's just like, if we're talking about heteronormativity, these men have to be having sex with someone. So it's like, why is it okay for men to be sexual and women not, if that's the only way that sex is going to happen in a heteronormative world? It just doesn't make sense. So, yeah, I don't know. But we're talking about Aaliyah, we're talking about Ages Ain't Nothing but a Number, and we're powering through this.
Right.
Maybe it would be best to just like go through and pick out some things that
just kind of like our eyebrow raising.
Yeah, right. At the very least.
Okay. So I mean,
and what we will say, if we want to talk about musicality in a very, very brief way, because it's like, it's this separation, right? It's this constant conversation of like, can we separate? Can we separate the artist? Can we separate the music? Like, are we able to do that? I think objectively, we could talk about the quality of this album. I think what's more important is the backdrop of the album musically. But I mean, if since this is a show about music, right? The style, you know, the what Aaliyah's doing on the album is essentially, or what R. Kelly does for her, is creates this New Jack sound that was very much R. Kelly. Like, think like she's got that vibe, you know, like written for a woman pretty much. And so he's able to do that and like make this like kind of like this fun, you know, like riding on Jeeps in the beach with my midriff, whatever, like this type of thing, which again, like you said, outside of the context of what is happening, is like, yeah, sure, that sounds like fun. Like, I want to be with my friends and like riding in my Jeep and going back and forth and doing all this stuff, but it's like, what's this grown man doing in the car? Like,
no, this ain't. It's like when the mom on what's it called, Mean Girls, when she was trying to get down with the clip, and it was like, girl,
exactly, right.
Like, no, this is young folk, hey?
Yeah, right, exactly, and like, and so, but for the more slowed down ballads, because there may be. So there's a sample of Bobby Caldwell on the album.
Yes.
And Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. Well, there's an interpolation, right?
Yeah.
Got a Thing for You and I Can't Let Go.
Yeah.
And then they sample the Isley Brothers twice.
And I mean, when you think about music with sexual energy, and love making, the Isleys, hands down, like they definitely give you that energy.
And so it's like you hear this, and she has her sound even at 15. Maybe because of her register, maybe because she had been singing since she was 10, or even before that, and she came from a musical family. Like, she sounds like a woman.
Yeah.
In the music, like her voice is very womanly. Like it's very
confident.
Yeah, confident. She has like a confidence about her.
And it's like the confirmation of the thing she's singing about. Like,
right.
There's nothing she sings about on this album that I'm like, what that little girl talking about? Like, right. It's like, no, like she
knows what she's talking about, which again, problematic.
Yeah.
Because it allows the space for her to be sexualized in a way that she maybe shouldn't, or that she definitely should not be by grown men at this age.
Yeah, and especially if like the person that's sexualizing her is providing her with the music.
Yeah.
I think the thing about it too, though, is just like we were saying, you know, again, context is everything, and you just. It's interesting that we picked this album because I don't think when we picked it, neither one of us had ever like fully listened to it from cover to cover.
Not from cover to cover. No.
And we both did recently, and we were just like messaging like, "Yo, like I feel so
in the world is happening. This is so nasty."
Yeah, it's like songs that like I enjoyed, but never like. It's interesting enjoying something when you're younger and then wanting to enjoy it when you get older, because it's like as like a young person, like okay, you know, 8, 9, 10, which I was like 7 when age ain't nothing but a number dropped. So it's like I grew up with, you know, age ain't nothing but a number. That's a little, you know,
and it's like you're not even intellectualizing what that means. At that age.
Right. It's like,
you're just saying something.
It's like you saying words that go together.
Right.
So like and then the beat, you know, but it's like now, like being a 31-year-old man, it's like, wait, why is this little girl singing age ain't nothing but a number? Why is this grown man writing this? Why were we bumping this? This is craziness. So it really gives you pause. And so I say it's interesting that we chose this album because it's just like kind of, it's like, woo, like I didn't think that, I thought it would be easy to like just, you know, not fuck with R. Kelly and his music. But it's like, okay, like that album, even though it's my artist that I otherwise very much so enjoy, there is very little of that album that I can play without feeling like morally conflicted and just disgusting. Yeah,
like I can't listen to Age Ain't Nothing But a Number now, because it's just like it's not like it's a little more than that. Like it ain't, you know? In this context, age is a little bit more than number. You know, like
it honestly,
and even with like At Your Best, which is also on this album, I heard this version of that song. You know, I have loved and like sang for years, and like 106 After like used to play like front to back. Like I love this song, but then you realize that a grown man wrote this song for a very young teenage woman to sing to that grown man. Like how narcissistic and sociopathic and like just completely wrong is that? Like imagine like this is the love song that I want you to sing to me. Right. Like it's
talking about At Your Best.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, and I mean, I know that he didn't write that song, but I'm sure that he chose to include that song on the album.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like to your point, like I agree with you wholeheartedly. I was gonna say with that one, it's even more sensitive because like you went to find that, like to curate this 13-track love letter,
right, to yourself from this teenager. Like,
bro, like
what?
And it's just, and honestly, listening to this album now, I feel like I should be like calling authorities.
Yes,
you know,
right now.
Right, it's just like, oh no, God.
And I just I don't know why that didn't happen then.
Yeah.
You know, like I was not old at all. I was very, 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 very young.
Right.
So I wouldn't have been able to do that. No. You know, I was barely able to sing these lyrics until years later. So it's just like, where were the adults? Anyone, like across America, like what was happening? And it's like, sure, you don't know her exact age, but you also can look at this girl and know, like, you know that R. Kelly is 27.
Yeah.
You know that this girl hasn't been on the scene for a very long time.
Yeah.
You know that she's probably not his age or drinking. Like, you can ask her if she can buy a drink, and that would be indicative of something. You can ask her if she could vote, and that would be indicative of something. Like, why was no one asking the questions?
Right. And I think that I will say that for people who are probably her age, I can get why they probably weren't making the connection of she's talking about this older man,
right.
Like, you know what I mean? So I don't blame anybody that was like a teenager and listening to it, because it's kind of like you're taking those songs and applying it to your own life, and you're probably not talking about somebody that's twice your age.
I should hope.
You know what I'm saying? Right. But it's interesting for me to think of, if I were the age that I am now, if I were 31 and 94,
right?
Could I have really been bumping it?
Right.
Like.
Right. Because it's like now at our age listening to. Well, I don't know. There aren't even that many like teeny bopper performers right now. But if you think about something like Mindless Behavior, even I was younger than I am right now when Mindless Behavior came out, and that was very much like, that is some kid stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna I'm not gonna engage. So I definitely don't want to hear them talking about
no sense.
Right.
Like if Chloe and Halle were talking about some craziness on their album, I'd be like, listen, ladies.
No.
Not here
Cut
for
it. Cut it. Right. And that's right. And I think they're a good example too. It's just like, there is a way to do this tastefully, and even though there might be grown people in the room like helping you write whatever it is that you're singing, like, it's not in this context. They're not going with you to press junkets and, you know, like sitting close to you and holding your hand and doing all this stuff. Like,
y'all dressing alike. Honestly, and so something that I didn't realize, because, you know, Papa likes to read the liner notes. But his mom is tributed on the album.
It's essentially his album. Like, it really is.
That's like on some, that's like legit, like some relationship type stuff.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, whoa. And again, I'm just like curious as to like why none of the adults, like why.
Wait. Are you saying that Aaliyah essentially, because you said his mom gets thanked on the album, like
it's tributed.
It's tributed. Cause like, is it Aaliyah tributing his mom, or is it R. Kelly tributing his mom?
See, that's the thing. I haven't seen the actual booklet.
Right.
I saw the entitle. I was looking at the credits, and it said tributees. Cause I do know from buying Aaliyah albums that she always like tributed her. I want to say paternal grandmother.
Okay.
Like.
But if you think about, I mean, usually the writer or the producer doesn't get the opportunity to tribute.
It's the artist.
It's the artist.
So, right.
Okay. So, I mean, there are a few, and we can go through a few of the lyrics that are problematic.
Right.
I mean, the entire age ain't nothing but a number. And the thing that creeped me out is, like, in that song, when there's a breakdown and she's, like, talking and she's like, I'm ready. Don't be scared. All this other stuff.
Yeah.
What? And again, did she want to say that?
Exactly.
Were you in the studio like, hey, I want you to say this? Either way, creepy, disgusting, gross.
Really is.
Like,
it really is. Like,
can you imagine? Like,
I mean, because it's in the fact that it's not, you can't even mistake that song for her singing about someone her age.
What could she possibly be singing about besides her relationship with her? Like,
with
what
an
could
older
that?
man? Because the hook is age ain't nothing but a number, and throw it down ain't nothing but a thing.
Right.
Like.
And we all know what throwing down means.
Exactly.
It's not going to the place at McDonald's.
It ain't shooting the shit. Yikes.
Go away.
That's all I could manage. I was just like, I felt like my Judy Madison
and so you have that, and then there's another song, and this is I think the other song that samples the Isley Brothers, Between the Sheets.
Mm-hmm.
And it no. That is a song I think called Old School. That's basically talking about like. Essentially, R. Kelly is up there talking about like, right, like R. Kelly used to play the old. He put me onto the old school game. Gross. And so there's another song. What's the name of it? Can we pull up the track list? It's not The Thing I Like. It's
Oh, No One.
No one. Yes, there's a song called No One Knows How to Love Me Quite Like You Do. Disgusting. And like, there, R. Kelly on the track. Lyrics. I'm reading these lyrics word for word.
Okay.
Leah, you're the only one for me. He says that 3 times. The one for me. The one for me. How could anyone given all of this, like he's writing it, he's singing it, he's producing it, he's with this girl all the time, they're matching clothes. Like, why was no one else outraged about it? I need to know what was happening. I need the context. I need a documentary on that.
Yeah,
like that's what I need to see.
Yeah, like what was the state
of... Right. What were the streets saying?
Society.
Right.
Especially if, because my thing is, you also have to think about the fact that like we hadn't really seen this before. You know, like we didn't really have a wave of young teenage female singers,
right.
like R&B singers and all like that. I can't,
not
like maybe like this is like kind of onset of that. Maybe if you want to say like Shanice and Tracy Spencer, but they were very much so like age appropriate.
Right.
Like it wasn't like even Tender Kisses. I don't get this sense that that's something like creepy, like she's singing to an older man.
And their secret grown man husband didn't write the songs for them.
And then there's also that. So it's very interesting that to kind of see how this album and this but it's like kind of egg or chicken, right? Like which came first? Was the wave of society or the general societal sentiment such that was okay? And to a degree, that's always been like as you would put it, a trope within our society. You've always heard about older men and younger women.
Right.
But this is like where you're really seeing it within the confines of like the black community. Because I also don't think that people of color, like black people, were like the face of that sort of like activity. No. But it's interesting that you see it show up in the black community in public in this way.
Right.
And so with it being cloaked in mass and entertainment, people weren't taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Which I just think that that's intriguing. Yeah. Like I don't even know like what to do with that. Like
I need to ask someone. I'm like thinking about like my cousins or like my aunties and stuff who like would have been the age where they would have been listening to this. I need to know what was going on.
You know, I'm gonna ask my mom because my mom in 94 would have been about.
I don't give an exact age now. We don't want to be putting.
Yeah. She would have been like, we would have been contemporaries. Like she would have been a couple years older than
and my mom, right, exactly. My mom would have been too. So but I also don't know if that means they would have been listening to a 15-year-old's album.
See, now that's what I'm curious about, right? Because you don't listen to AJ Number the Number and listen to it as a 15-year-old's album. Right. You listen to it as Aaliyah's album.
But then,
which is a difference, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like.
But I don't remember, like, and I could be, but this, like, my mom wasn't on this. Because, she, like, my mom put me onto music that she enjoyed listening to.
Exactly.
At this age. And she didn't put me on to, which says to me it might have been some of my, like, older cousins who were a little bit younger, like, maybe in their 20s or maybe, you know.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, though, like, you know what I mean? Because I can't think of...
Who was the audience?
Right. That's the thing. That's the thing. And that's why I'm like, were there 30-year-olds that was listening to this new girl that's on the scene? like not necessarily thinking that she's a teeny bopper, but just thinking like she's a new R&B singer.
Yeah.
And this is a sound that's like, you know, we're getting in other music, like SWV is doing music that sounds like this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, all these like other artists and groups, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like she's just in the mix. It's not a
Right.
separate category.
But like again with the context of like, but you see her with this man. Like you like you see this happening and just
do.
like what do you do with that? Like what do you do with that information?
I think that it was one of those things. I mean, again, the best way to term it is hidden in plain sight. It was so normalized. They were so together, and they were so public with it. That's like, well, they don't have anything to hide, so it can't be anything crazy going on.
Yeah.
You know,
right?
But it's like, oh no, like actually all the crazy things. But so with all of that, and I think what you are gonna find if you haven't already gotten it. This isn't an episode where we're gonna really reach a resolve. Mm-hmm. Like there's gonna be a lot of lingering questions, not just for us, but for you all as well. So
yeah. And this would be a great episode to have dialogue about.
Exactly, please. So while we're kind of plugging that, before we wrap up that conversation, you know, we have a Facebook page.
Yes.
That's gonna, by the time this episode is up, you'll be seeing that. And we're gonna be like posting some kind of discussion board posts, and we're also gonna start putting the video up there too.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to like keep the conversation going in very like targeted ways. But then we'll also have just some general ways for you to submit your thoughts, and you can always write us a note at gmail.com. But yeah, so this is gonna be the type of episode where we're gonna be talking about it probably for the rest of the season, honestly.
Yeah.
In one way or another, especially as things continue to unfold.
Yeah.
With legal stuff. But so we kind of went through like, you know, the overview of the album. We talked about, you know, some of the lyrics, some of the songs. Talked about the context for the album.
Right.
So kind of like as we get into the last pieces, one of the things like we usually like to do when we like talk about a particular body of work is talk about like a favorite song, or like a, I guess, at least problematic song. I don't know. Like, I think I was telling you earlier that I like the song Young Nation.
Yes.
Because that is probably the most age appropriate sort of song. That and Back and Forth. I don't think that Back and Forth is like, honestly, if Back and Forth were the extent of R. Kelly and Aaliyah's relationship, I think society would have been a better place.
Yeah.
Boom.
I would have been fine with him writing that song and even being on the track.
And that's all we needed.
Right. That was it.
So I guess those two.
But yeah, because any other song has this tinge. Any song that's talking about like deep love or what crushes. She wants to do and all this other stuff, it just you have the context of who she's talking about. Yeah. And it's so difficult to separate. And you know, she's not just talking about anybody because they're not really her words.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. So, I mean, you know, again, we want to hear from you all.
Yeah.
How do you still listen to AJ Number the Number? If so, what is that process like for you? You know what I mean? Like, I don't need a play-by-play, but just general sentiments. Yeah. And then, you know, also, if you don't listen to it, is that like as a result of like the newer allegations and, you know, the renewed conversation around R. Kelly, or is it a decision you made a while ago?
And
or
just
like you did your own analysis?
Right. Just in general, like, how easy or difficult is it for you all to consume media from people after things like this happen? Yeah. And I think that it is a case-by-case basis, and it really just depends on the content of what goes down. Right. And also maybe the quality of the media too, if I'm being completely honest and forthcoming about it. But you know, because it's not like, I mean, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number is a good and it's a solid studio album, but it's definitely not the album of a generation. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's something that anybody is like holding on so tightly, like, but like it's this album. Like, I don't think that anyone's doing that for this. Maybe for songs. Maybe for songs on the album.
Yeah.
But
it's a much better album though than, and I'm saying this, if I just think about it musically.
Yeah.
Not, oh god.
Go ahead.
But it's a much better album than I thought it would be all the way through.
Oh yeah.
I expected it to be like, okay, just the singles and then everything else is just kind of there. But I was like, oh.
But it's also pretty consistent. Like, I think it's pretty much, and I mean, someone would say all the songs sound the same. I'd say like the album has a sound, and it's really just semantics.
And it's true, right?
Yeah, I think that's all I got.
I know that's right. So, I mean, rest in peace, baby girl.
Yeah.
You know, we're definitely thankful that we were able to get a couple more projects from you that allowed you to be more centered in a way that wasn't as funny feeling.
Yes.
But yeah, we look forward to keeping that convo going.
We definitely do.
So as we get to, you know, closing the show out, I guess it's time for Run That Back.
Yeah, it is. Do you want to go first?
I absolutely do not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, so I can go first. So my Run That Back is Chris Brown's song, Undecided. I like that song a lot, but I really, really, really like it because of the sample. Like, Shani, you were just talking about Shanice. I Love Your Smile. Like, I have always loved that song. The song just, like, makes me very happy. It reminds, like, so, like I have cousins, like, my sister and, like, all that other stuff. We, like, have, like, all of us, I remember, like, singing that song with them and all that other stuff. At a very young age, and it's like a very cute and age appropriate song, and so it feels very innocent. And I think that Chris Brown was able to translate that in some ways, and I like, honestly, that I really, really like the song. I like Undecided not just because of the sample, but I think that it's a really great song too. There's the one line that he has where he's like, you know, pussy is my weakness or something like that. And it's like, you always have to make a song gross. Just like, you always have to put filth on top of what would otherwise be like a decent track. Offering. Yeah. Like, just, and so it's like, beyond that, I really, really like it. But yeah, like, all the smut, like, but, and this was the point, I think maybe, I think we made it in the first half of this episode, so last week, but like, it's hard for me to imagine being someone who consumes a song like that, and doesn't have the context. You know, like, and we were talking about people listening to music right now, just like as music right now, without knowing the history and without knowing like where all of these samples are coming from and like all that other stuff. And I'm like, I can't imagine. There's like, I would be hard pressed to point out a song that samples something where I do not know where the sample comes from. Exactly. And if somebody points it out, it's only because like it's changed and flipped in such a way that like I didn't recognize it, but then once I do recognize it, I know what they were talking about. Yeah. You know? And so it's just like people my age, right? I had a conversation with a friend of mine where I was talking about the song and I was like, yeah, I love that Chris Brown song. I love the video. I love the sample. And he's like, oh, it's a sample? And I'm like, yeah. It is. And it's a sample of a really good song. Right. Like, and it's just like, but and so much is sampled now. Yeah. That it's very hard for me to imagine not having that context, because it's just like, you just think these songs are good and you don't realize why you like them. Exactly. Yeah, like that's crazy to me. Yeah. Like, but then I have to think about it, right? But no, I was younger too. Yeah, I feel like at our age, there should be no one that hears a song with a 90s sample from it and not recognize today,
it.
I know, I know Earth Angel by the Penguins. You know what I'm saying? Like we're talking about, like, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Like, I know music. And I mean, everybody doesn't have to.
Right.
Like, and that's not, I'm not saying that,
maybe,
but, like.
music isn't everybody singing that way, which I always have to catch myself because I'm like, what?
But if that's the case, don't, like, be informed before you make an opinion. And that's all I will say on that. Like, because music is so universal, like, everybody can buy in, but, like, maybe don't if you don't have anything intelligent to say.
Very true. Very true. Wow. So, I sit here and I look at you like this because I am still somewhat lost on what my run that back is.
Okay.
It's crazy because I feel like I've been playing a lot of music lately.
Okay. So is it just you don't know what to pare it down to?
Maybe that's it. But I guess I can say that there's kind of like two schools of thought. Like, I like some ratchet stuff, some really ratchet stuff. I've been, like, I've probably watched.
I'll give you two.
Oh my God.
Today.
Thank you.
For the second season.
Okay, yes.
And for twos, because twos are great. But, go ahead.
So, Twerk by City Girls featuring Cardi B.
Why not?
I mean, I think it's probably because they gave us the video this year. Like, that really has just been like how, like, whenever I need like a little jolt of energy, I put that on. Which, again, songs that use great samples.
Right.
And I could not imagine not knowing that sample. I probably wouldn't enjoy that song as much as I do.
There are those.
Yes, y'all. Twerk by the City Girls featuring Cardi B features a sample of the song Chopper Style by one artist, Chopper.
Right.
Who's from the Noya, I'm pretty sure. And yes.
Yeah.
That's where I Want to Slam Fine Woman with some twerk. That's where that comes from. It ain't no,
just some random, like, that ain't Offset up there.
It ain't QC, bitch. Okay? Well, so that's that. So that's one song I've been listening to a lot.
Yeah.
And then I've also been listening to.
Well, maybe, so let me say before you get off of Tori, because, and I don't know, have you seen the WTP video?
Okay, I did, and I have opinions. Let's do this.
So what I said was, I just tweeted, I wish it was 15 years ago so I could have seen Twerk and WTP like battle it out for number 1 on 106 & Park.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been very fun to me.
That would have been epic.
You know, like, and like both coming out in the same week, like, you know.
I agree. And both very. So yeah, I don't even have to think of another song. Thank you. Let's close it. What I like about both of those videos is that, they're very affirming and empowering for the populations that are at the center of the video, right? Because a lot of
there
times
are no men in the
twerk video, and that's something that I loved. I was sitting there and I was like, I think sometimes artists or people who make music who aren't canon or who, who don't come from a certain pedigree musically, they're not viewed as having artistic vision. Yeah. When I think that, like, you don't have to be polished to have vision and to, like, really think about things and to be intentional. Yeah. And I think that people like Cardi B, City Girls, like, I think that they're intentional in ways that people won't give them credit for. Like, maybe now, because of the time we're in, we have people that are looking at culture in that way, but there's still probably ways, like, a couple of years down the road where people will be like, oh shit, like, they did that. Because the fact that they didn't have any men in that twerk video, I was like, so this is when, like, this video, like, is full of women that are shaking and twerking and doing all that for their own enjoyment.
And it's not for their own gaze. Yeah.
It's not. It's like, because they are enjoying, like, making it clap. Like, how many times have we seen women in videos, though, like, a slew of women in a video, but, like, they're being objectified, like, and commodified. Yeah. Commodified. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Okay.
It will be today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like, in a way that just feels like, okay, like, whoa, like, but, you know, and the same thing for Tiana Taylor for, you know, not using the ballroom scene or the ballroom culture and, you know, LGBTQ plus queer people in a way that was like objectifying or exploitative or exploitive. She censored them, but she didn't like she did it respectfully.
Appreciation and not appropriation.
Absolutely. Period. And if there's a lesson that we leave with you in 2019, it is that.
Yeah. No, I loved it. I loved it so much, and it was so fun. And it reminded me of Pose, which I can't wait for.
I can't wait till that comes back.
It was great. It was great, and I think that, to your point, you know, it's just this sentiment of like, because she didn't have to do. When you hear the song on the album, it's like, okay, like maybe this song could have come from someone else actually within the community and have it been like a little bit more genuine. But I think that was. She was smart to do the video in the way that she did, because she was very much not like. Of course, she's like super bad and all this other stuff, like in the final analysis of it. But what I appreciate about like the whole like Cinderella story of it is like, I'm surrounded by greatness. You know what I'm saying? And like I don't have it. Like I'm not that girl.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like and that like. That needed to be what it was.
Yes.
Like this is not about me. Like this is as much as this is my song and this is my video. Like. I'm gonna let y'all see what these people have going on.
Yeah.
You know? And then just be bad and like hump my man on inflatable nipples because I can do that. Because we're both so insanely attractive. But yeah. Yeah.
My God. I'm getting a little hot. Thank you. But no, so, you know, y'all, we thank y'all for coming back and rocking with us for season 2 of On That Note podcast. Keep rocking with us. We promise it's just going to keep getting better and better. We have some more things up our sleeves for this season. And we're excited about fleshing it all out with you all. We look forward to you becoming more and more engaged and connected with us via our social media. And, you know, last but not least for me, share, tell a friend. Like, it's not too late for them to jump on the On That Note podcast wave. There's plenty of room for them. And, we just want to continue to grow the spaces and forums in which we're able to have conversations about music and culture. Because it's things that we enjoy a lot, and we know a lot of you do too.
So it's one of my favorite, and maybe I talked about this on the finale, but like one of my favorite things about this show is like having people in my life like listen to the show and say like, I love when you talked about this, or I can't wait for you to talk about that, or like this is how I feel about this. Like this is just creating that space for conversation. I love it. I enjoy it, and I'm excited to continue to do it with this guy right here. So. All right, we will see you all next time, and in the meantime, in between time, you know, keep it cute.
Yes. Follow us. At OTN_podcast on Instagram, On That Note podcast on Facebook. And then you can of course follow each of us. You see us on social media.
And write us a note at gmail.com.
Alrighty, y'all.